Vinton County couple charged in the death of an infant will appear in court this week. Plus,
do not release the dog with his hands up, don't.
A Circleville police officer is placed on leave after a traffic stop sparks outrage. And August is right around the corner. How to help students prepare for the upcoming school year. Newswatch starts right now. Good evening, I'm Morgan Anderson. Welcome to Newswatch. An investigation into the 3 bodies discovered in Scioto Valley County is being handled as a homicide. The Scioto County Sheriff identified the bodies last Saturday as that of Heather James, P. O'Brien, and James Andronis. According to the sheriff, all 3 lived at the location on McLaughlin Road in Lucasville. Scioto Valley County Sheriff David Thurman says the bodies were discovered after responding to a call from a family member saying they found their son dead inside his camper. The bodies were transported to the Montgomery County Coroner's Office for an autopsy. A couple in Vinton County will appear in court this week after the death of a 7-month-old boy. The child's mother, 20-year-old Cassie Hoover, and her boyfriend, 27-year-old Philip Johnson, are facing charges of child endangerment and reckless homicide. Johnson is scheduled to appear in court tomorrow, Hoover on Tuesday. The Federal Aviation Administration is taking over the investigation of a helicopter crash in Noble County. The helicopter crashed near Morrison Hill Road around 2:23 yesterday afternoon. The Noble County Sheriff's Office says the pilot was Brett Smith from Montana. Smith was injured from the crash and transported to the Ohio State University Medical Center. A Circleville police officer has been placed on paid leave after newly released body cam footage shows a dog attacking an unarmed black man who surrendered to authorities. Despite an Ohio State highway trooper urging the officer not to release the dog, Polo Sandoval has more on details. Now we want to warn you, the video you are about to see is disturbing.
The footage provided by Ohio State Highway Patrol is disturbing, but now under scrutiny after a man was mauled by a police officer's canine. July 4th, Jackson County, Ohio. A case report shows a highway patrol officer in a marked vehicle tried stopping the driver of this big rig for a missing mud flap. The man behind the wheel, later identified by authorities as 23-year-old Jadarius Rose, drives on, and a chase begins. About 20 minutes into the pursuit, the big rig is seen rolling to a stop.
Get out of the truck!
But that lasts only a few seconds. The driver continues to flee, and officers stay on him for another 8 minutes.
He took off again. We're heading northbound.
It wasn't until police used tire deflation devices
We're stopped.
that the chase came to a slow but dramatic and disturbing stop. That's a Circleville, Ohio Police Department K-9 unit rolling up to the scene. After repeated orders from state troopers, the driver eventually steps out of the rig, his hands in the air as requested. A patrolman is heard asking the K-9 to not be released. Though it's unclear if he could be heard by all officers on scene, that's when the K-9 is deployed.
Do not release the dog with his hands up. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Don't get the dog off of him.
After the K-9 takedown, an officer approaches, then quickly walks away, her hands covering her face as Rose screams in pain. The frustration audible in the voice of another state officer.
Was that not loud enough?
After the dog is removed, officers move in to arrest Rose and administer first aid.
Just let a dog bite me.
All you had to do was come to me.
I was coming, all the guns pointing at me. How you do this for me to respect you? You got a gun pointing at me. It's like 20 of y'all.
All you had to do was stop, brother.
I did stop.
A spokesperson for the Ohio State Highway Patrol tells CNN, as troopers were attempting to gain compliance by providing verbal commands to the suspect, the Circleville Police Department deployed their K-9, which resulted in the suspect being bitten. CNN has reached out to the Circleville Police Department for comment. Police say Rose was taken to a local hospital where he was treated and released before being taken to jail. His attorney declined to comment.
The Ohio chapter of the NAACP is calling for an investigation and wants the officer involved to be disciplined or fired. Circleville has not commented on when the officer would be taken off leave.
Good evening. We had some nice weather this weekend, and we are looking at another hot and muggy day today with potential for some rain and thunderstorms this evening. Right now it's about 85 outside, and we're starting to see a little bit of lightning in the area. And across western and central Ohio, we have severe thunderstorm watches. We also have a little bit of a flood warning and severe thunderstorm, a special weather statement up near Delaware, a special weather statement down near Jackson, and a severe thunderstorm warning just south of Cincinnati into Kentucky. And we're expecting this watch area to expand further into eastern Ohio as well as West Virginia and Pennsylvania as the night moves on and as these storms start to expand just a bit. So right now a lot of these storms are down in the Cincinnati area, and what's going to happen is these storms start out fairly small, and as they start to grow, they start to feed on the warm air that we've seen throughout the day that has a lot of moisture in it, and that's going to help to grow these storms. Now, we here in Ohio had a lot of daytime heating, so we didn't have a lot of cloud coverage going on for most of the day today, and that's helping to create a lot of instability. So as this rain and as these storms continue to make their way across Ohio, they're going to continue to feed right across they're going to continue to get all of their energy from this warm, moist air. Now, one of two things could happen with these storms. So they're going to start out relatively small, feed on this energy, and start to grow. And as these storms start to move together, they could either grow and intensify into a larger severe thunderstorm, or they're looking to grow and they'll sort of weaken each other out as they sort of fight for this energy going on into the system, and they'll just turn into a larger pocket of rain. And that's sort of what we're expecting to happen as they move across the eastern part of the state. But for now, if you live near down Chillicothe, down in Lucasville, or near Portsmouth, we're expecting these thunderstorms to come your way here within the next hour or so. Be sure to stay tuned for our full forecast. So we're going to look at the progression of these storms later this evening and the hot temperatures we're expecting later this week. Back to you, Morgan.
Thanks, Emily. College students struggling with hunger face the potential loss of food stamp benefits. The United States Department of Agriculture's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, relaxed its eligibility requirements during the pandemic. Researchers estimate 3 million college students were added to the program as a result. But now that the public health emergency is over, students already receiving SNAP benefits had until June 30th to recertify in the program. The expanded SNAP eligibility will only last one more year until it reverts back to its pre-pandemic rules. Mackenzie Moore, the Community Empowerment Specialist at Hawking Athens Perry Community Action, says students should still apply even with the new stipulations. A Republican senator who's reportedly thinking about running for Secretary of State in 2026 has proposed a bill to ban a particular method of voting. Senator Teresa Governor's bill would withhold payments from the state's local government fund for any community that passes ranked choice voting. The method allows voters to pick both their first and second choices in multiple candidate races. But Governor says ranked choice voting causes delays, confusion, and lower voter turnout. Former Republican State Representative Gene Krebs says they've seen polls showing they're unpopular and banning it would hurt Republican candidates in urban counties. The issue to put abortion access into Ohio's Constitution would likely not pass the 60% threshold if Issue 1 passes next month. According to a Suffolk University poll, about 58% of likely Ohio voters support the abortion rights proposal that could be on the November ballot. This percentage is just under the threshold of Issue 1, rather than the current simple majority of 50% vote if the law passes. The poll also says 32% oppose the abortion rights proposal and 10% are undecided. West Virginia's Republican state auditor will no longer be running for governor. J.B. McCuskey has announced that he will instead be running for the Attorney General's office. Others who are also running for this position include current GOP state senators Mike Stewart and Ryan Weld. McCuskey spent 4 years in the House of Delegates and is currently in his second term as an auditor. West Virginia's Governor Jim Justice is barred by the state law from seeking a third consecutive term. Candidates can officially file to run for office in January. Coming up after the break, new reports show good signs for the U.S. economy. Plus, millions are under heat alerts as a heat wave continues in the Southwest.
We are seeing thunderstorms pop up in western Ohio. Those could be moving into southeast Ohio later this evening when we return on Newswatch for more information.
A billion miles from the sun.
Every time we think we have Saturn pegged, another piece of evidence tells us no, everything we thought was wrong.
The most mysterious and alluring of the planets. But the discoveries came at a cost.
I was supposed to call end of mission. I couldn't get the words out.
It's still hard.
The planets, Saturn, on Nova.
Wednesday at 10 on WOUB.
Did you know that local laws and regulations determine how your estate will be distributed if you don't have a will? Nearly 70% of American adults have incomplete estate plans, and thousands face this problem every day. This season is the perfect time to build out your estate plan and protect the people and programming you care about. Estate planning can seem like a lot to tackle, which is why WOUB Public Media is sharing Free Will, self-help estate planning resources that have empowered more than 350,000 Americans to plan for their futures. An estate plan can help you protect the family, friends, and pets you care most about, plan beneficiaries for your assets, and create a powerful legacy that supports your favorite broadcasting for years to come. To learn more and get started, I invite you to visit freewill.com/WOUB.
Welcome to the age of humans.
We are not just talking about an ingredient. We are talking about what we are.
A key phase in domestication is when humans take over the breeding process.
Every place that we inhabit is artificial in some way.
One might say just stop eating chicken. This is about replacing.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
A new report says the U.S. economy is growing much stronger than anticipated, and a recession is less likely than previously thought. Morgan Stanley's most recent economic guidance says the drivers of increased optimism are booming manufacturing and spending on infrastructure. Both of those are key components of what President Joe Biden has labeled Bidenomics. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act provided $2 trillion of federal funding to rebuild roads and bridges and modernize the power grid. And the Inflation Reduction Act provided incentives to bolster supply chains needed for manufacturing. Along with the new report, a new survey suggests American businesses are expected to fare better in the coming months. A survey from the National Association for Business Economics released today shows businesses are enjoying better economic conditions. The group's president says it reflects an economy of rising sales and profits as material costs decline and stabilizing wages prove less challenging. This year has seen a steady slowdown in inflation, increasing consumer confidence, and has also improved the odds of a soft landing by the Federal Reserve, in which inflation would return to the Fed's 2% target without pushing the economy off a cliff. Further optimism in the economy could play a role in the Federal Reserve's decision on whether or not to raise interest rates this week. The board is meeting this week amid the release of new economic indicators and corporate earnings reports that could give us a better understanding. Chris Wynn looks at the big business week ahead.
From Washington to Wall Street to your wallet.
There's a lot on tap this week, most notably the Federal Reserve meeting and expected to raise interest rates.
After pausing in June, experts say the central bank is poised to hike interest rates by an additional quarter point Wednesday in its ongoing battle with inflation.
There's still a ways to go. Expect the Fed to underscore that message and also drive home the point that they're willing to continue raising rates in the fall if necessary, if we don't see further easing of inflation pressures.
While rate hikes are in part intended to give consumers relief by cooling inflation, they do that by making borrowing even more expensive.
So consumers don't let up on that debt. Even if the Federal Reserve stops raising interest rates, rates are still very, very high, and they're going to be high for a while.
Also expected to move markets this week, a slew of second quarter earnings reports from major corporations.
The bulk of this year's market rally has been driven by less than 10 big tech names. And if you start to see some softness either in their earnings or their forecasts for earnings going forward, the market could see a pretty notable pullback.
The good news, although investors and economists alike are still anticipating an economic slowdown in some form, Hope of a soft landing remains as the U.S. economy seeks balance in the post-pandemic era.
I think the expectation is that if we do get a recession, that it is likely to be more on the mild side.
In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn.
Tens of millions of Americans are struggling to stay cool during this unrelenting heat wave. Already, more than 5,000 heat records have been broken or tied in the U.S. in the last 30 days. And as Cole Higgins reports, there is no letup, with high temps expected into August.
More than 35 million people are under heat alerts Monday across the U.S. after more than 35 heat-related records were broken on Sunday alone, according to the National Weather Service.
Feels like an oven.
Las Vegas shattering its record with a temperature of 116 degrees. In Death Valley, California, a daily record-breaking 128 degrees.
I don't like the heat, but it's something that you have to deal with living in Arizona.
It's been so hot in parts of Arizona that doctors in Maricopa County are seeing a spike in patients burned by just falling on the ground.
The pavement is so hot that it only takes a fraction of a second to get a pretty deep burn.
Phoenix fire crews inundated with calls to help people who can't escape the heat and the elderly.
Put some of our IVs on ice or cool our IVs so we can cool that internal temperature quicker for those individuals.
The heat wave set to impact even more Americans this week from the Midwest to the East Coast. It's even affecting ocean temperatures and threatening coral reefs.
Parts of the Caribbean, like Belize, are already bleaching and bleaching pretty severely. And Florida is where Belize was about a month ago.
South Florida's abnormally warm water putting some corals there at risk of extinction. Scientists fear without coral, Florida could lose a natural defense system that helps protect the coastlines from waves and flooding during hurricanes. Reporting for Newswatch, I'm Cole Higgins.
For more on the hot conditions is forecaster Emily Dietz. Emily, what can we expect?
Evening. Right now we're seeing fairly hot conditions outside. It's about 85, but we're just going to see those temperatures rise later this week. But right now we're looking at some severe weather down to the southwest of Ohio that's looking to be pushed towards the southeast. We currently have some lightning observed in Athens. Now today we've been under a slight risk for severe weather mainly in southwest Ohio, whereas southeast Ohio we're under a marginal and general risk areas because right now we're seeing these small pop-up thunderstorms going on that are pretty severe. Up near Reynoldsburg, we're seeing quarter-size hail, and up in Delaware County, we have winds of about 50 miles an hour. But we're looking at these storms sort of joining together, and they're going to sort of feed the energy out of each other and just become a larger mass of rain with some thunder this evening. But for right now, we have a large part of Ohio that's under a severe thunderstorm watch, and we're looking at this area expanding as we move into the evening. We also have a bit of a flood warning just to the north of Delaware, as well as some small areas of severe thunderstorm watches. Now, part of the reason this is happening is because we have a very small isolated low going on over Indiana right now. And along with that is an upper atmospheric trough, and that's just helping a little bit of convection going on. We've also had some daytime heating that's helping with this instability along with the warm, moist air. So a lot of that's creating this convection that we typically see in the afternoon to evening hours, and that's started in Indiana, and it's starting to grow as it pushes across Ohio. And this evening we can expect to see these storms start to grow and create a larger rain mass as we move into these evening hours, and this is up till about 2 or 3 in the morning right along here. So about that time we'll see things start to let up. But for us down here in Athens, Ohio, we're looking at about a 10 to 11 p.m. time for this rain to move through, and we should be seeing some lightning and some thunder and some possible wind. But tornadoes are not our main threat for tonight, but make sure you still have a way to be weather aware going on into this evening. Now tonight we've got that 60% chance of showers with a low of about 62. It's another warm, muggy night, but tomorrow it's going to be a hot day. It's about a high of about 88 with those partly sunny skies, and that's because we're going to see a bit of clearing from this rain tomorrow through the afternoon and even tomorrow evening as well. And Wednesday is another clear day. A lot of that rain is going to be away from us, but we're going to start taking a look at what's going on out west, because that's going to develop a little bit and lead for us into Friday. But throughout the rest of this week, it is going to be a hot one. Wednesday, we're looking at mostly sunny skies, high of about 93. Thursday, partly sunny skies, high of about 93, and that's when we start to see our overnight temperatures reach into the 70s. So it's going to be pretty warm days with pretty warm nights, and that heat index, so your feels like temperature, is also going to be pretty high. And Friday is our hottest day so far this week. It's going to be about 96 with that possible heat index into the 100. So we're going to keep an eye on that moving throughout the rest of this week. We're also looking at a little bit of rain this weekend, and that's going to be from that system out to the west. So it's going to be a hot one this week. Back over to you, Morgan.
Thanks, Emily. The Department of Justice is suing Texas over the state's buoy barrier in the Rio Grande. The suit comes after Texas Governor Greg Abbott says he would not remove the floating barriers. The barriers are part of the state's operation to deter illegal immigration along the Texas-Mexico border. He said in a letter to President Biden, quote, "Texas will fully utilize its constitutional authority to deal with the crisis." The Justice Department said it planned to file legal action against Texas following the installation of floating barriers. The 1,000-foot-long floating barrier and netting along the water has been criticized by lawmakers and advocates who say it poses a drowning risk to migrants.
It's barbaric treatment. It's extreme cruelty. There's no need for that kind of cruelty. You know, that's something, Jim, that you would expect to see in a country like North Korea.
The Texas Department of Public Safety says there has been an increase in migrant injuries, but it denies a whistleblower report claiming officials were told to push migrants back into the river and deny them water. After the break, grab your book bags. It's almost the start of the school year. What ways you can help your kids prepare for the classroom. And to stay up to date on the latest from Newswatch, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Here's what's new this month with Passport.
Will, this changes everything.
No, that's every blues singer in the country was doing that.
In the 1960s, hip-hop became our voice.
Draw your arrow to the head!
These and all your favorite shows are available with Passport. Support your PBS station and stream more with Passport on the PBS app.
Welcome to the age of humans.
We are not just talking about an ingredient. We are talking about what we are.
A key phase in domestication is when humans take over the breeding process.
Every place that we inhabit is artificial in some way.
One might say just stop eating chicken. This is about replacing.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
On country music.
There was a saying, blues had a baby, and they called it rock and roll. And I always said, yeah, and I think the daddy was a hillbilly.
2 new careers are launched in Memphis.
When it comes to music, Memphis has always had a little more soul. It's in the gumbo down there.
And 2 legendary women come to Nashville.
When you hear her sing, you feel the emotion in every lyric.
When country music continues.
Thursday at 9 on WOUB.
Here's what's new this month with Passport.
Will, this changes everything.
No, that's every blues singer in the country was doing that.
In the 1960s, hip-hop became our voice.
Draw your arrow to the head!
These and all your favorite shows are available with Passport. Support your PBS station and stream more with Passport on the PBS app.
It's the last full week of July, and as August creeps up, it's time to start thinking about heading back to school. Health experts say preparing now before classes start can help lessen the stress of a new school year. Randy Gaither talks with a therapist on how to handle the summer to school transition.
As summer starts winding down, back to school mode gears up.
Kids are just like adults. They need preparation.
Strong for Life licensed therapist Jody Baumstein says to start now by gauging how children are feeling about the new school year, ask open-ended questions, and listen.
If we say something like, "Oh, are you nervous to go back to school?" Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but now they might be overthinking what they actually feel or feeling like they need to respond in a certain way.
No matter what kids share, Baumstein says to validate and normalize their feelings, especially in times of change. She says getting back on track with habits and routines can help ease stress. For example, if bedtimes have gotten later over the summer, Baumstein says to inch the time back gradually.
Because if we set ourselves up from the beginning with something that's totally unrealistic, the kids aren't going to be really tired at that time. They might feel frustrated. You might feel frustrated.
And as everyone settles back into the school routine, Baumstein says to limit any unnecessary stressors.
Maybe you're redoing a room or starting to potty train a younger child. Maybe it can wait a week or two as we enter into the school year. It's really helpful to think about pressing pause on those things.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
When we return, zookeepers in Columbus make a shocking discovery. But first, here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
Knocking me down, but my heart keeps beating.
If you know where you come from, you'll know where you're going.
I know a brighter day will come.
My lovely city became divided.
Every bruise and every scar makes us who we are.
We were brought up in a culture that valued story.
Our stories deserve to be heard.
Okay, what just happened?
It's moving. My heart is singing.
I believe it, yes, I believe it.
They could not imagine existence without the buffalo.
There's no gospel without the totality of African American culture.
Our future looks like us telling our stories.
Wow. God, that's satisfying.
Who we are.
Welcome to the age of humans.
We are not just talking about an ingredient. We are talking about what we are.
A key phase in domestication is when humans take over the breeding process.
Every place that we inhabit is artificial in some way.
One might say just stop eating chicken. This is about replacing.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
A billion miles from the sun.
Every time we think we have Saturn pegged, another piece of evidence tells us no, everything we thought was wrong.
The most mysterious and alluring of the planets. But the discoveries came at a cost.
I was supposed to call end of mission. I couldn't get the words out.
It's still hard.
The planets, Saturn, on Nova.
Wednesday at 10 on WOUB.
Zookeepers at Ohio's Columbus Zoo and Aquarium had two unexpected discoveries. A newborn baby gorilla and the realization that its mother wasn't a male gorilla. So how could the facility not know that 8-year-old Sully was a female? Officials say it's because veterinarians at the zoo where Sully was born took a hands-off approach with her care. When she came to the Columbus Zoo, she was identified as a male. She was healthy and didn't need any medical procedures that would have led veterinarians at the zoo to confirm her gender earlier. Now, Emily, if anyone plans on going to the zoo, maybe to see Sully and her baby gorilla, or, just going out this week, what can we expect?
Yeah, well, this week is going to be a hot one, but for tonight, we're expecting some strong thunderstorms to move in across central and southeast Ohio. Right now, Newark is in a prime area for receiving a strong thunderstorm right now, but that will be relatively short-lived, followed with a lot of rain. And right now, Cincinnati is also seeing a lot of rain, and we're expecting that to grow. And so if you're in Chillicothe or Waverly or Lucasville, you might be seeing the impact of this storm as well relatively soon. And what's going to happen is these two storms are going to keep growing and expanding as they're feeding off this warm, humid air that we've been seeing throughout the day today, and they're going to sort of join together and sort of meet up, but they're also going to weaken as they go. So we'll continue to see some thunder and lightning as these storms reach into southeast Ohio. But as they move through, there's just going to be a bit of rain as well. So if you live in a flood-prone area, you may be seeing quite a bit of water. But tomorrow is going to be another hot day, and later this week, another hot week ahead. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water.
Thanks, Emily. That does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. For Emily Dietz, I'm Morgan Anderson. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime on WUB.org. Follow us on social media and have a great night.
Support comes from Snyder Strode Jarrett Financial in Athens, providing investment and retirement planning assistance to Southeast Ohio for over 50 years. Snyder Strode Jarrett,